Looks like we got us a comment in there. What do we want to talk about today? I mean, there is the NASCAR race coming up. I mean, you have this Trump situation. I don't really care about that. I mean, it's all live theater. It is all live theater, even when you get to this Josh Williams situation. But number is on there. I would love to hear from some PA posse members. I mean, obviously, there's got to be some PA posse people who believe that they have the best damn drivers in the world. In the world, you know, Denny Hamlin or Josh Williams ain't better. There's got to be some. There's got to be some. 424-250-1313 is the number to call. And the line is open. And we are also reading the chat. If you're scared and you don't want to talk, 424-250-1313. If you are scared and you don't want to talk on the phone, there is a live chat. You could type it in there, whatever you think, whatever you want to talk about, we could talk about it. I guess a debatable topic would be why is PA drivers so dominant? You know, you have Schuhart and Allen that's out there, but is that really something special? I mean, I felt bad for Freddie Raymer last night. I thought he had a shot. I felt like if they would have stayed green, though, when Freddie Raymer spun out, that Devin Borden more than likely would have won that race. He looked to have the fastest car on the track at that point, and they were in traffic, and Raymer and Sweet were kind of floating the middle in 1 and 2. And Borden was kind of entering up there right up on the wall. You know, he's a real good top side driver. That's one thing that the West Coast guys are really good at, running a cushion, because they grew up on tracks like that. And I know people, it sucks that high limit rained out, but Tulare is one of those racetracks where you go through 1 and 2 in qualifying at the Trophy Cup, and you just became a man. There is no cushion up on a wall that you are going to find more dangerous, more risky, more on edge than Trophy Cup qualifying at Tulare Thunderbolt. So, anyways, or read some comments. I'm just a Western PA sprint car fan. I don't claim either, just love 410 sprint cars. And how does that go for Western PA? Do Western PA people feel disrespected in this situation? How do y'all feel? How do y'all feel about everything? I would love to hear Western PA. Why don't Jesse James call on in? Once again, 424-250-1313. We're going to have the lines up just a little bit longer. I mean, if nobody calls, we'll go ahead and sign out. I pretty much said all I need to say. If nobody wants to call, we'll go ahead and sign out. Is KKR full-time World Outlaws? That is a very interesting question. It's a situation where they got the high limit stickers on their fire suits, obviously. We see that on Brad Sweet, and we see that on Kasey Kahne. I'm not sure. And then there was a lot of rumors that KKR got to test this new sprint car tire. Apparently, KKR was at Golden Isle or something like that. Potentially testing this new sprint car tire that's going to change everything up. Kahne and Sweet are not highlighted in the story from last night. I mean, if anyone is not going, if there was one team or organization that was not going to be a high-limit sprint car driver, it would be Kahne and Sweet. Or not a World Outlaw driver, it would be Kahne and Sweet. Sorry about that. Just because, Sweet and Larson are starting this thing, and I heard Kasey Kahne was pretty damn upset about how the World Outlaws have handled everything. The counter nights, like as far as nights that are counting, I hear a lot of people like confused about, the Eldora Million apparently is going to be these counter nights. They're going to count for the 4 nights that you can race. I would say to that, for those who are confused about why the Eldora Million, for instance, is going to count versus the Capitani, you people are just so, I don't want to say you're rats or you're mouse or you're just so disconnected from your brain to your mouth, but it's, or your eyes, really, your brain and your eyes. Can you not see and understand like what's going on with you? Because it is obvious the reason that is not the case is because Eldora Million is going to be on Flow Racing and the Capitani will be on Dirt Vision. I don't understand how you don't get that the streaming war thing is very serious. If the High Limit series was a Dirt Vision series, I would bet you that none of those nights would even count. None of those nights would even count if Dirt Vision was the streamer of the High Limit series. But since it is Flow, since the Eldora Million is going to be broadcasted on Flow, and another streaming company is going to capitalize on the other teams, or on the streaming companies capitalizing on World of Outlaw drivers and their fame and stardom that the World Racing Group feels like they have built and made, those nights are going to count because it's Flow. Capitani, not going to count probably, more than likely, because it's going to be broadcasted on Dirt Vision, and that is keeping everybody in their basket. Those eggs want to leave the basket, go to Flow Racing or another sprint car event that's not broadcasted on Dirt Vision, you're going to have to pay for it. All right, looks like we got us a call here. Going to have to call it back. We missed the call. Looks like we may be having an issue with the actual system here. I may have to restart this phone caller little system that I got here. But I saw people actually asking, "Why is so stupid that?" Well, it was one of these podcast guys who are just they're so disconnected because they're so stuck in their own little area, just like the PA people. It's so dumb that the Eldora Million is going to count. Why? Oh, is Capitani going to count? No, the Capitani is not going to count because it's a Dirt Vision streaming thing. It's not a Flow streaming event. And this is all about streaming rights, broadcast rights. So anyway, let's see if we can call this number back. Hopefully that didn't just blow everyone's ears off. We got our first call on deck. Hello, who is calling in?
This is Steve.
Steve from where?
I'm in Ohio, Chaz.
Okay, so that means you are in the only state that may rival PA as far as fandom.
Maybe.
Okay,
we're not as crazy as those people, but
what did you want to talk about?
Here, yeah. I don't know. We can talk about whatever. I kind of miss what you were talking about with the whole Dirt Vision Flow thing. I caught a piece of it, but like I understand that part of it, but I just don't get this company. I can't stand how everything's a big secret with these guys. Like, just tell your fans what's going on with stuff, first off. And second off, the whole Eldora Million thing and the Capitani thing, I get that, but why did they, from what I understand, I think I saw it from you, is they all had to run down in Florida, the All-Star shows. But those didn't count. So how does this work? You know what I mean?
Well,
like it doesn't make sense. Well, it does make sense, but if I was an owner, I'd be like, what's going on here?
Well, I mean, once again, you just have to look at their properties because Volusia Speedway Park is a World Racing Group facility. So they want the World of Outlaw drivers there, the World Racing Group teams, so that people will pay the front gate. Even though it was broadcasted on Flow, World Racing Group benefits for their World of Outlaw drivers to be at Volusia because they're getting the ticket sales through the front gate.
But if I owned a car, if I was, I don't know, let's say Jason Sides, I'd say, well, does this count against one of my four I get here?
Well, no, it didn't. The Volusia races didn't count.
I don't think the big teams care. So, but why?
I think the big teams
based on their own rule, you do?
I think the big teams care because I think what's happening here, the only reason World of Outlaws is existing is because it's kind of the only relevant brand that the sponsors know about. Like Napa or any of these, CarQuest and all these name brand NOS Energy, they want to run for a World of Outlaw championship.
But
like I heard that that's the thing.
I see that.
That's the thing behind the 41 car, from my understanding, that all ball or whatever, his goal in life is to be on a car that wins a World of Outlaw championship. And that's why that team is going to be a World of Outlaw team, because that sponsor is paying more money to the team
Right.
and the driver than the World of Outlaws could think about paying. That's the problem, because that's the problem with sponsors running this damn sport right now, versus a Kinzer era when you could win money and make a living. Now, because of the low payouts not increasing, the teams and the drivers and the organizations are so dependent on the sponsorship dollar to make a profit that they have to do whatever that sugar daddy tells them. I mean, sugar daddy's kind of a, derogatory way of putting it.
Have you heard whether or not they've disclosed to their members any of the streaming revenues?
Well, from my understanding, they say that these bonuses are all coming from the streaming profits. All the bonuses that you hear about, like the showing up bonus, the platinum bonus, this bonus, that bonus. When you hear them use this bonus phrase, it's all coming from, apparently all that money is coming from the streaming services.
So why isn't any of it going into the purse?
Well, and that's where it's all about trying to entice these drivers who are involved in sprint car racing to race World of Outlaw races. It's not about giving money out to every driver that's there at a World of Outlaw event. It's about giving money to these drivers who will stay with the World of Outlaws, who won't run away, who are platinum drivers. So in their mind, they're using the streaming money to not technically give back to the sport, but to give back to those drivers who show alliance and loyalty to the World of Outlaw brand. So that's why they're using it in a bonus type of way, so that it only benefits those who are World of Outlaw diehard type teams.
Yeah.
And that helps them not.
I get that. That tour can only sustain so many drivers within that business model to work. So, I get that.
Well, it's working though. That's why.
Yeah, it's working. But what I'm about to say is, I've been going to sprint car races for my whole life, 35 years, and they're still paying $10,000 to win.
Yeah, they have to do that. Having the sponsors in control of teams and the series in control of teams is way more beneficial to the bosses than it is the employees. Systems don't like independence. They don't want freedom of choice. If they could instantly, at the World Racing Group or Lucas Oil or any of the late model organizations could instantly have the power and control that the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series has, the people on top would instantly do it. It's all about control. It's all about telling people what to do. If you give them too much money to where they can do whatever they want.
Kasey, Kahne, and Tony Stewart come in and give their 2 cents, though.
Well, and I think that, the Eldor Million was kind of a FU to the World Racing Group and how they're handling this high limit situation.
I agree. I agree. 100%.
But I do not understand. I still don't. There's some kind of, I don't know, rules or masonry situation going on to where Tony Stewart is not just, and it would be easy to pitch the All-Star Sprint Car Series to a bunch of these other tracks. And instantly, you could do a few adjustments with the All-Stars and pretty much take over the World of Outlaws' national dominance. You really could. A partnership with All-Stars and Kyle Larson and his little group and Kasey Kahne and Tony Stewart, you could literally take the All-Stars next level, which obviously they're the original sprint car touring series, before the World of Outlaws.
Right.
I think the one thing holding that back, though, is and PA has this a lot, is a promoter like cartel of track owners kind of situation where you could try to pull that off, but I think some of the bigger higher ups with these big name brand tracks outside of Eldora aren't going to necessarily sign up for a proposition like that. I heard some tracks that were interested in a high limit race. They were literally called that had an outlaw date and said, if you continue to pursue this high limit option, you're going to lose your outlaw races. And some of these tracks.
See, that's what pisses me off, man.
Well, and then you had Todd Queering. Obviously, he's got a high limit race at Huset's, but I think he has FU money. I think Todd Queering has FU money.
Yeah, he does, but this high limit deal, this high limit thing isn't going to hurt the Outlaws. I don't. It's only going to hurt them if they allow it to hurt them.
Well, they could have played a lot nicer. They could have played it a lot nicer.
Just
4
play
races
along.
only.
I mean, these guys want to run a race in the middle of the week to make a little bit of extra money. It's going to be in between your races or your events now that you want to do, which I'm fine with that even. But, dude, let these guys go race. They're racers. That's what they want to do. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Carter did have a point. It was like 4 years ago that the sprint car guys were saying we race too much. It wasn't long ago that sprint car teams and drivers were saying 90 races is too much. We want to race less. It wasn't that long ago they were preaching for that. So that's an issue in itself. It's like he does have a point.
Well, it's a big difference to show up at Lakeside on a Tuesday night and race for $50,000 than to show up in Bismarck, Wyoming on a Tuesday and race for $6,000.
Right. Well, but once again, that goes back to the control sector of the whole situation. You got to pay a low amount and then you have to also put your benefits and your bonuses on the back end for the people who stay with you so that they technically can't have any independence, so that they can't leave and make more money. You could do a Marks and Macri type schedule, but I don't know if a Marks Macri type schedule gets as much respect as an Outlaw Tour driver.
Well, there's not many guys that can pull off that kind of schedule either.
Well, exactly. It might be just as expensive, and you get no benefits. When Marks and Macri were running around doing what they're doing, it's not like tracks were giving them all the pit passes when they show up, or giving them $800 minimum, or giving them a provisional. Those provisionals are big deals. They may not get any points from those provisionals, but they're getting guaranteed money. But once again, that's all because of the payout structure being so low that they're having to depend on those types of situations to make ends meet. And that's what an organization, if you're a boss, you kind of don't want to pay your employees enough that they can leave you. I think that's kind of the system in place. It's smart. I mean, if you're the World of Outlaws, it's smart. I know some people say that the Outlaw guys are ungrateful. But all these sprint car guys are ungrateful because they're not happy with what the World of Outlaws are giving them. I mean, and that's stupid in itself. But some people have that opinion, I'm sure.
I mean, the drivers can say what they want, but it's ultimately those guys they drive for who,
Well, and then that's the sponsors, because that's who they're driving for, listens to.
You have your top tier of Outlaw guys, and then you have the rest. You get your top 5, and then you have the rest.
Right, and there's a lot of drivers who could go in there and be better than Bill Rose, for instance. I think it was a guy making his first World of Outlaw start at Lincoln last night, out-qualified Bill Rose. And it's like the World of Outlaws fits the Bill Rose situation, because here's a guy that, has the money to travel and go up and down the road, but isn't going to really be super competitive, but he can make a halfway-ass living doing that because of those benefits that he gets from the tour. So it's an interesting situation. It's very interesting. What part of Ohio are you from?
It is. I live in Starr County. I live like my home track. You know where Wayne County is?
Wayne County, yes.
Wayne County Speedway.
Yes, I heard there's a big sprint car. Like I was going to that first high limit race and it rained out. I was like almost to the track.
Yeah.
I heard there's like a big debate over there in Ohio between how much that new age fast series is, the Fremont Attica series or whatever. I don't know how, or maybe it's expanded to another track or something like that. And they're paying so much more, in like Wayne County pays junk, but drivers are bitching about money. I don't know. I heard some Dirt Nerds podcast was talking about it. Do you know anything about that?
I was told that Wayne County did up the sprint car purchases this year. I don't know to what, but that Fremont Attica thing's pretty legit. A lot of it's weird in Ohio. You kind of have like your Fremont Attica group of cars, like in North Central, northwest Ohio. They kind of just run that on Friday and Saturday nights. But Wayne County, they'll get, say on a regular Saturday night, they'll get anywhere from 15 to maybe 20, 22 sprint cars, which isn't bad for them. So they're the only show in town. But there's another track in the area though that this guy bought out that he's trying to bring sprint cars back. That's called Hilltop Speedway.
Yeah, Hilltop. Yeah,
but it really needs a lot of work. But he said that he wants to have sprint cars there every Friday night, and that would be good for like a Wayne County Hilltop thing. Friday night at Hilltop and Saturday night at Wayne County. But Wayne County's a nice little track. Like that's my own track. That's where I grew up watching sprint cars. And kind of went from there. I've been everywhere pretty much.
Well, and it seems like, outside of PA, Ohio is a close second. You can maybe say Houston or Knoxville or the Midwest, but there is a lot of tracks in Ohio, and there's a lot of 410, like here in the upper Midwest, like Iowa and stuff. It's a lot of IMCA, and then there's 410 sprint car racing, where I feel like over there you have a lot of super late model races and 410 sprint car racing, all in the same region.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not bad. If you ever get a chance, you might want to. You'd probably enjoy Ohio Sprint Speed Week if you haven't done it before.
I haven't done it before. I've wanted to, but it does look like those tracks dust up extremely bad, extremely quick.
Yeah, some of them do. I'm not gonna lie, some of them do.
But that can provide good racing. A nice ice rink.
Yeah, they can, but I think you saw the race last year at Lima. They shouldn't even race.
Yeah, that was insane. That was next level. But Lima's one of those tracks that is a really nice facility and track. It's just, I guess nobody cares about it or something, or the college won't properly maintenance it.
Yeah, the college supposedly takes care of it, but it seems like ever since the Doty race moved from there, that's when they kind of just were like, we don't care anymore.
That's pretty
That's
sad.
What it seems like, and it doesn't help. The track, the track was built basically in a swamp too. If it rains there, I'm talking about just like a shower.
So basically, the best racing you can get at that track is going to be on iRacing.
Yeah, pretty much. But we do have a lot of good tracks. There's a lot of good tracks here. Obviously, Eldora, Attica's a good track.
Lawrenceburg,
Wayne County, Lawrenceburg. That's in Indiana.
Well, it's right there on the border, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's down there.
Atomic was supposed to have that big.
Atomic's racing. Yeah.
Atomic's in there. You got Sharon. What's that other one that's up in there that kind of dusts up pretty hard? Where I think it was Kyle Reinhardt took a hell of a ride there a couple years ago, or Geo. It kind of has like a cornfield in the background. Yeah, I think Waynesfield.
Yeah, it's Waynesfield. Yeah.
I think people get Waynesfield and Wayne County mixed up, but
we're pretty lucky here in Ohio.
Definitely, and you're not far from Indiana, although Indiana don't do no real winged racing, Yeah,
so it's about, from where I live, it's about 3 hours to Eldora. So it's three and a half to watch a race anywhere in Indiana.
And then Attica's kind of north Ohio, right?
Yeah, it's kind of north central Ohio. It's about an hour from the lake, an hour from Cedar Point.
Okay. Yeah, I know Tim Sims, me and him get along pretty well. He's up there in Lima, so it's all around that, that stuff. So.
Well, they got Fremont over there too. Fremont's a decent track.
Yeah, Fremont's good. It don't get no outlaw race. It seems like if you don't get an outlaw race, you really don't get put on the map. That's the other sad thing.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing in Ohio for a long time. Is the only tracks that really got outlaw shows were Eldora and Attica would get the one, but the All Stars were real heavy in Ohio for a long time, and just recently, for whatever reason, the All Stars have kind of backed off that.
Right. Yeah. Well, wasn't there some kind of?
I
was just gonna say, wasn't there some kind of issue between Tony Stewart and the guy at Fremont?
Yeah, I don't know. You probably know a lot more about that than me. But
well,
I heard about that.
Yeah, I just heard that there was some dude, and Tony Stewart said that the All Stars would never go there, and then they switched promoters, and that's why they went back. But
Yeah, I think his name was Rich Farmer.
Something like that. Rich Farmer? That's hilarious. Ohio's a lot of farmland. People underestimate that.
Yeah, once you get out of Western Ohio, that's all it is. That's all you
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. But all right, I guess
But
Steve from Ohio, thanks for calling in. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
who are you going to take to win the championship this year, the Outlaw title? Who do you think?
It's
Think
going to be
Gravel do
hard
it?
to beat David Gravel, I think. You know, Cody and them. You know, Cody Jacobs obviously is from Ohio there.
Yeah.
And he's the crew chief on the 2 car. They got a real good clicked up team. They got great finances. It's going to be hard. It looked like they adapted. Him and Macedo adapted very well to the new tire. I think him and Macedo, and you can't leave out Sweet, but we don't know if Sweet's going. I don't know if Sweet's going to be a title contender. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. See, I was reading the story from last night on the World of Outlaws website. Okay, and in the story, it seemed like what it looked like was all the guys that are Outlaw drivers, their names were highlighted red in the story. Okay, but Kasey, Kahne, and Brad Sweet were not highlighted red.
well, they may not be the
Which I
platinum.
found odd.
Isn't there like that gold membership? Because there's like you can miss 4 and still be a platinum, but then it was like you can miss
Well,
8.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know because they don't want to talk about things that go on like things like this. You know, they don't want to talk about what happened with Wayne Johnson and Aaron Reitzel. They don't want to talk about how they messed up, screwed Sheldon last year up in New York. You know what I mean? Like they just don't talk about it.
Well, anything that's going to make them look bad.
Like
they're not
last
gonna
year
do.
at I-55. Last year at I-55, I was standing at Sheldon's trailer buying my kid a car, shirt, I don't know. And I asked the guy straight up, so whatever happened from Weedsport the other night, did they, the Outlaws rectify that? Did you guys get anything? And he basically looked at me like he wasn't allowed to even speak about it. And I'm like,
Yeah,
really, dude?
I mean,
Like,
I was there at Cedar Lake
like,
when that
really?
whole deal happened with the Shots crew. And I kind of asked, and the dude was like apologetic. He was like scared, you know. It's weird, you know that.
Like, you want to give fans something to talk about during the week, like things like this when races aren't going on.
Right,
Like, that
you're supposed
stuff
to build it
I'd
up.
like to read about, like, you know what I mean? Like something.
Yeah, I mean, you think they
No,
would
it's
take
just
that
weird.
page out of the Dell Jr., Denny Hamlin, you know, they're, you know, all these podcasts that they do throughout the week talking crap about what NASCAR did right or wrong, you know, that adds so much publicity to their show coming up. You know, now people are tuning into the NASCAR race today to see what Denny Hamlin's going to do on the track now that he got in trouble with NASCAR over the Ross Chastain deal. You know, it's like they have missed that element, but I think that's because of how egotistical, you know, the brand is in a way. You know, the brand
NASCAR
is bigger
sucks.
than the drivers to them. I think the brand is bigger than the drivers to them, and they've scared the drivers into conformity. And honestly, I think that if the drivers and the teams are upset, every one of those drivers highlighted red in that story can look in the mirror if they got anything to be sad or upset about. Because Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet put their asses on the line to give them an
Yeah, they
option
did.
at Freedom.
I give them credit for that.
But they gave them an option at Freedom, and I fought really hard. I fought really hard for that Freedom, and I don't feel like I was technically, you know, betrayed or anything like that. But I at this point I throw my hands up, just like Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet should throw your hands up and say we did all we could. You had the option to stand the ground and say F you, World Outlaws. And your 4 races or your 8 races, I want to be free. Here's some options. Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet provided you options to be free. And if you sign that dotted line, you signed up for any frustrations or problems you may have with the World of Outlaws. It's all on you. So those guys highlighted red, they don't get no sympathy from me because they had an option. You did not have, now all of them can say, well, it's the best financial option for our teams and we needed this and that. Okay. You know, you needed that. If you needed that, you didn't need Freedom. You made a choice.
Well, we can still see how the season plays out because by the middle of July, it's going to be 3 or maybe 4 guys, and the rest they're not going to have a shot at it. And that's what maybe as an owner, you reevaluate and see where you're at, and maybe it is more beneficial to you to just kind of run where you want, maybe not go out to California, or maybe not, go here or there and come back east for the fall. I don't know.
Well, I am interested to see how many drivers pull the late model style scenario. The late model guys, there's a lot of them that sign the dotted line and are getting benefits right now from the series. And from my understanding, there's a lot of them that are planning to, drop out come May or June, but they're going to take all these tow benefits and all this stuff in the meantime. Just similar to what Craig Kinzer did at Volusia. I'm assuming he got some benefits for saying he was an outlaw driver for a week. So
what's he doing? Have you heard about him? Is he just?
I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing rumblings that he may go be an all-star racer full time. If he does that, I mean, I've always said you could take a mid-pack guy from the Outlaws and title contend for all-stars. I think you could do that. I think Craig Kinzer could, him and a couple other guys trading sliders ain't necessarily up front for all-star wins on a consistent basis. Ain't really an exaggerated statement. I'm more interested to see what Tyler Courtney's going to do. What is he going to do? Is he going to be a Brent Marks Mackery type schedule? Or is he going to be all-stars again? Nobody's really heard anything about the Courtney schedule, but Craig Kinzer, obviously, he's not full-time outlaw anymore. What's he going to do is a question.
Courtney wasn't in PA last night, was he? He didn't go over there.
No, he didn't go. He didn't. No. So he's not outlaws. He could still potentially be a all-star full-time. But it's all up in the air right now. What is that first all-star race? Where is it? It's April, isn't it?
It's at Attica next week.
Or Attica next week? Okay. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see who all shows up to that event. And if we have Steve Kinzer or Craig Kinzer and Tyler Courtney at that race, that may be, a kind of a sign of who's going to be an all-star driver. So,
Peck, I don't know if Peck's going to do that all-star thing again, or he might do his own thing.
Well, Peck did go back to the Volusia outlaw race, and Peck was at these outlaw races. Why would Peck not announce a sign up to get some benefits? I don't know. It looks like it is not until April, 2 weekends from today, or 3 weekends. So this next weekend's 24, 25. The next weekend's 31, and the 1st of April. The following weekend is April 7th and 8th, and that is the Attica race for the All-Stars. So 3 weeks from now, World of Outlaws, they go down to Talladega Short Track and Magnolia this week, and then I believe they go over to Texas for the Devil's Bowl event. So that's the schedule on the sprint car side of things. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see who's gonna. You'll find out now who's an outlaw or trying to be. Like, if you see Peck at Talladega and Magnolia, I don't know if they could sign up and be an outlaw driver out of nowhere. The PA season hasn't really started. It kind of did, but it hasn't really went up against an outlaw race per se yet. So it'll be interesting to see who is going to stay in PA and who's going to hit the road. Obviously, Dietrich has a pretty extensive schedule, but so the Outlaws go Talladega, Magnolia, then Devil's Bowl, and then the weekend of Attica All-Star Opener, they're at US 36 and 81 Speedway, and then you'll have the first high-limit race at Lakeside following 81 Speedway, and then I-55 for their little spring show they got, and then Knoxville, and then Tri-City, and then it looks like in May they go to Ohio, and then they make their May swing through Williams Grove for the Morgan Cup, and then they come to Attica and Sharon and Atomic, and that's all in May. So May's kind of that PA, Ohio swing time, and then they come to the Midwest after that for about a month, high limit and all that. So we'll see.
Yeah, did you go to Houston last year?
I was at the Houston race, yes.
What's that track like? Is it? I mean, was it racy? Was it? You can't really tell on TV, but
well, the speeds there. It's a very short, quick, high bank track. It's one of the best facility. It is the best short track facility in the country.
Is it as banked as I-55?
I haven't been to I-55. The one track I really want to check that I haven't, but it is extremely banked. It kind of hurts it though, especially with wing cars, because I feel like it rubbers up really fast on the top or the bottom. I think there's so much inertia in the corners that it just presses those tires into the track and really rubbers up a line very fastly. So Spike Fast Racing says I-55 is better than Houston's. I mean, it's debatable. I think the format at that high bank still, they invert the heats, so it makes it a little more racier. I think the format with the World of Outlaws produces subpar action for the fans.
Yeah, it's not.
Where you just qualify and you start up front. It sells motors. That's what the Outlaws is based on. Pretty much selling parts. If you want to win a World of Outlaw race, you can't start fifth in a heat race when you got Donnie Shots and Macedo and Gravel on the front rows. You can't do that. And Sweet and all those guys up front. You got and that's why I say it's about selling motors, because you got to have a brand new Donat or a Ryder or a Morrison, as the Gravel team has, or Kistler, like I believe the 41 team has. If you don't got those motors, you're not going to qualify well. And if you don't qualify well, you don't have a shot at winning an Outlaw race. So the format, in my opinion, is what kills the World of Outlaws, or kills the regular guy from keeping up with the World of Outlaws, and it kills the on-track action. So
I think it could be a lot better, the heat races.
It could be a lot better, but then that would upset, and it goes back to those drivers who are
upset the teams. And
those platinum drivers. They want that night where they unload, they race a little bit with the guys they're used to racing. They start up front. They don't really have to risk their car to make a move, and then they load up, they collect their check, and they go to the next race.
But that's what makes these other races so great, like the High Bank Nationals, the Knoxville Nationals.
Even the All-Star format's a little different, I mean, the All-Star format's a little bit better, I think, than the Outlaw
because
format.
if you're in an All-Star race and you're not up front, as long as if you're the quick guy in your group and you transfer, you still get in the dash. So you still have an incentive to race.
Right, and it still gives the guys who don't qualify, it still gives the guys who don't qualify tremendously well a chance to perform,
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, but once again, the Outlaws, it's a yin for yang. Their system's very set up for their platinum teams, and they give the benefits to their teams, and they have a format that benefits those teams as well. So it's hard to leave their own little porch. People say the PA drivers are scared to leave the porch, but the Outlaw drivers are somewhat afraid to leave their porch too, because they have so many benefits on the porch. And like I said, Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet put their ass on the line to help them get off that porch, and a bunch of guys obviously said, "No, I'm happy with my Massa."
So who is there someone in the background of all this that we don't know about, you think? Because I think there is. There's got to be.
As far as?
Just somebody in the background kind of nudging and pushing maybe Brad or Kyle to do this, just somebody maybe, I don't want to say Tony Stewart, although I could see him doing that. I don't think.
Well, we've seen the Trackhouse partnership.
But somebody back in the background that's got access to large amounts of money, large amounts of connections, kind of just testing the waters. Like, you know what I mean?
Right, seeing what could happen.
For two guys like that, for two guys like that to come out and do what they did, like what you said, dude, that was ballsy.
Right.
And to do it Kings Royal weekend at Eldora Speedway, I mean, that took a lot of kahunas to do that.
Well, and I don't want to give too much credit, but if it's all based on ego and jealousy, you could almost blame XR. I know you may not know what I'm talking about, but the XR brand.
I'm kind of familiar with it, yeah.
That's the late model guys. They came out and they started putting on these big money late model races, and it kind of, made the other late model series up their pays. 4 years ago, if you had a $20,000 late model show, that was big. Now, if you ain't got a 50, you ain't doing nothing because XR came in there and threw all this money on the line. And and then obviously that, produced $1 million races and just a kind of a bidding war for late model drivers, and the sprint car people, because of streaming, got to see all this money being paid out to the late model guys and got, in a way, jealous, I guess you could say. And now the sprint car industry is upping and doing the millions and all this stuff in a way of the jealousy of the late model world and how much they are getting paid to race for. And that situation only occurred, in a way, because of the XR influence of the whole scenario. So you could, in a way, say the XR Super Series and what they did to the late models spurred all that we're watching here today, in a way.
But the big difference between late models and sprint cars, late models, they put on a $100,000 to win race, $200,000 win race at Eldora, or really anywhere, I think, in the country. You're going to have 100 and some late models show up.
Right.
In the sprint car world, you're only going to have, 60, 70 cars show up with, honestly, maybe 10 of them that could really win it.
Right. Well, and I see that because
you know what I'm saying?
I see that because of the icon of the sport. People put their money in late model racing to be a late model star. People in sprint car racing put their money into little kids in hopes to go to NASCAR like their star, Kyle Larson. There's two different priorities of investment. The open wheel world loses their mind on going to NASCAR. The late model world loses their mind on winning World 100s. And winning big races. Right. It's just the icon difference.
I don't think Kyle Larson, that's a...
But that's what every driver in sprint car racing always says. Even David Gravel, I've always wanted to go to NASCAR. Yeah. Everybody wants to be a Cole Trickle.
Well,
whereas the late model world, everybody wants to be a Scott Bloomquist.
Yeah.
That's just it's an icon
shift. They don't want to be, they don't want to be Donnie Shots. They don't want to be Steve Kendrick.
Right. They see the open wheel people see a Donnie Shots or even a David Gravel as somebody who couldn't do or didn't get the chance that Kyle did, and they view it as like a second-rate accomplishment to be a World of Outlaw sprint car champion. Like, this is the left behind guys, and I think that's why you have more car owners in late model racing, because they're willing to invest into being a late model star, whereas there's not a lot of people willing to invest into being a sprint car star, because the sprint car star is still a second-rate star in the open-wheel sprint car fan base.
Seems like the late model world's a little different, too, because you got drivers that are, seems like, a lot older than your typical sprint car guy or your competitive sprint car guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and because
the Outlaw Tour today.
Well, and that also...
You're right. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, and it goes right back to these are the guys who failed to be Kyle Larson. That's Brad Sweet tried. All these guys that we're talking about outside of Shots and Schaar, and Sheldon, but the bigger entity names, the champions, these are viewed by the fan bases, and not necessarily them, but the fan bases are viewing these guys as the ones who couldn't go to NASCAR. And then when you got Gravel admitting that on his lives and talking about how he wished to do it, why is being a World Outlaw sprint car driver a second-rate situation?
I don't know, man, but they do. I see their beef with stuff, and they want to make money. Everybody wants to make money.
Well, and at least Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson did put their ass on the line. Man. They did put their ass on the line. Yeah, they did. And those guys who are highlighted in red, they ain't got no one else to blame but themselves for the situation that they're in. Everybody else did all they could. Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson provided a actual option. I went out here in the social domain and tried to provide public support for them to choose that option. And those guys who signed that dotted line ain't got no one else to blame but themselves for whatever the World of Outlaws do to them. If they come out there and throw their crew members around, if they come out here and screw them with the call on the track or this or that or the other, and they're mad about where they're at, everyone else provided you, Kyle Larson, Brad Sweet, Chaz, everybody provided you an option, and you signed the line to stay on the porch with your massa. It's their fault.
It's true.
It's their fault. I don't have no sympathy for those guys anymore. They have literally made the bed that they are laying in now. I have no sympathy for them at all. I had sympathy last year because they ain't ever had that opportunity.
Yeah, they have, but
they never had that opportunity.
Well, the flip side of that coin, though, is there's a lot of guys on that tour that they need that money, you know.
Wants and needs.
So
you
right.
want it. You don't need it. I guarantee you they don't need it. They don't need it. They may want it, but they don't need it. But I do think it goes back to sponsors, like the All Buy or All Ball or whatever with the 41. I think a lot of these sponsors are only on these cars because of the World Outlaw Championship, and that's it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then at that point, you're bending to the sponsors' desires because the sponsors are what's supporting the teams. And that's not the case. Back to late model racing, the sponsors on most of those late model cars are the businesses that these guys have worked for their whole life. They don't have to answer.
I'm curious to see if some of these guys, I don't know if they can pull this off with that agreement. I don't know what that agreement says or how it reads or whatever, but some of these guys hop in other cars for these high limit shows.
Right. Didn't Sheldon
you know
run a race at Wayne County last year for another car owner and won? Like a 25 car or something?
They got rained out in PA, and Sheldon drove home and got in this guy's car and won. It was a dominant performance, obviously, but yeah, he did that.
Well, and I believe
but
also
I don't know if he got in trouble or
is it Jason Sides?
I don't think he's going to be on the full-time tour anyway. I think they're going to do their own thing.
That's possible. But so was his name highlighted?
Set up with them.
Was his name highlighted in that story?
Yeah, Sheldon. Yeah, Sheldon's was. Yeah.
So then that's telling you the answer, right?
Yeah, for now.
That's telling you the answer. Or do they not have Brad Sweet and Kasey Kahne highlighted because they have that high limit patch on their fire suit?
I mean, that's ballsy within itself.
That is but all this whole situation is ballsy. You know, but when you don't stand next to the guys... I think
it's great, man. I think competition is great. Let these guys go race. Outlaws, go find some more sponsors. I mean, I know for 100% certain fact that someone I know and I'm very close with had a sponsorship deal with the World of Outlaws, and when they were asked the World Racing Group about this streaming and the eyes that are going to be on their company's name and this, that, and the other, the amount of eyes and money they see from that, it was so they cannot disclose that. This guy was a sponsor, Chaz.
Yeah. Well, and they could say that streaming don't make enough, the number isn't as high as you think it is. Well, if it's not, why are you hiding?
Well, we don't know what they are because you won't tell us.
Well, and why are you hiding?
That's like the NFL not telling you how many people watch the Chiefs and the Bengals on Sunday afternoon. They would never do that.
You don't hide valuable. You do not hide unvaluable. You hide valuable information. If it wasn't valuable, then why are you hiding it?
Right.
You know, they always try to say the numbers.
If it really isn't that good, the numbers aren't that great, then okay, just to show these guys. Let them see.
Well, and we don't know.
To bitch about it anymore.
Certain teams and people may get to see, but we just don't get to know.
See, that's the problem right there.
Whereas NASCAR and all these other places, those are publicly published. You know, NASCAR's numbers and stuff, they're publicly displayed. You know, for sponsorship information, usually. A lot of those teams will take that TV number and go and shop for sponsors.
Right. That interview you did with Brad Sweet was great because he made a great point. And basically he said what you were just saying is, you know, I'm out here trying to get sponsors for my race car, and I can't tell them how many people are going to see this race or that race on a Friday, Saturday night. How many people, you know?
Right.
How can I sell? How can I talk to my potential partner and bring them into the sport, which would benefit the sport? You can't share this with me. Dude, that's a great point.
It is.
Best point of this whole argument.
It is. And I mean, and Brad Sweet and all those guys stood on, that's BS. And these other guys signed the line and said that's okay. At the end of the day, these guys signed the line and said that's okay.
So what do you do when you go out to Eldora? Where you camp out there? Or
I sleep where I can. So I've slept in the car a lot, honestly, at Eldora. The temperature's good enough at night. Temperature matters a lot if you stay in the car. I've crashed with Tim Sims a few times on his couch bed that he has in his RV. But yeah, it's hard to get hotels out there. Sometimes you just got to go to the race, and sleeping really isn't really the main concern. You don't really experience sleep. You just close your eyes and you open them, and it's the next day.
Yeah,
so.
I hear that.
But we'll see what happens.
I want to buy some soda pops out there this year at the Million, man.
What do you mean?
Soda pops.
Soda pops. Well,
in the grandstand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I'm definitely gonna go to the Million.
Soda pops. Wink, wink.
Yeah, I know soda pops. Yeah. Kava. I'm interested in this Kava bar, man. I experienced this Kava bar here recently, and I pretty much ain't drank alcohol since. I mean, it's a badass drink, so I gotta try to find a way to push that a little bit as well. But yeah, I mean, I'll be out there. I don't know how much. I mean, the car's kind of took its last couple miles. I mean, 400,000 on it, so we'll see how that wraps up. But we'll see. It might be able to make it all the way over there. I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to try to make it to the Million for sure.
You'll be at the Million.
I'm sure somehow, some way. Yes, I'm sure. But anyways, well, I guess thanks for calling. Yeah,
man, it's good talking to you. I like your podcast and stuff. I listen to them a lot. I think you're an interesting dude, and you do a good job with this stuff. And there's aren't many guys out there doing podcasts and stuff like this. The other ones are, I don't know, whatever. They're okay. Yours is, I think, the best.
Well,
so.
Dirt Tracker is the highest rated, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch him. I tried it out. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Really.
Well, that's good. Well, I did just recently start putting these on Spotify as well, because I was driving around, and it's kind of hard to watch YouTube videos. So when you're driving, I know a lot of people are on Spotify now and wanting to still be able to listen to this stuff. So this episode here will be on there. It'll be on Long Live the Chaz. There's an artist and a podcast. They're both me, but they're also going to be on the Spotify as well. Not really making any money on that, but just want to give the availability to more people to listen while they're driving down the road, because we got a lot of people in racing who are driving down the road most of the time when they're listening to stuff. So
that's right.
It is on Spotify. But yeah, thanks for calling, and it's Steve from Ohio.
That's me.
All righty. Well, thanks for calling.
All right, Chaz, take it easy.
You too. Yeah, so we just had Steve on there, and that's a good point, man. I mean, he brought up a good topic there. It's like, it's very true. It's very true that anyone in the Outlaw Tour right now who is upset at anything with the Outlaw Tour, Kyle Larson, Brad Sweet put their ass on the line to give you an option to do something else. And you chose to not take that option. So I had sympathy for these guys in the past and last year, but I don't technically have sympathy for them anymore. They had a choice. They had a choice, and they made that choice. I mean, they're fine. I still like the drivers. They're still great. But as far as High Limit and Freedom and Outlaws running in their world and mistreatment of officials or mistreatment of drivers or mistreatment or bad calls and all this crap, they signed up for it now. They said that's okay. That's fine. And they made their choice. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, it's just over the hour and almost half mark. We are going to get out of here. I have to use the restroom. Things, we do have calls coming in, but I have to use the restroom. Hold on. Maybe we can make this work. Hello. Do we have a caller?
Chaz,
Yes.
this is Spike.
Okay, well, Spike, I have to take a piss really bad. You go ahead and open up your segue here. I can hear you still, though, and I could scream, but I don't know if they'll hear me.
You can scream.
All right. So
I'm sure that's normal at your house.
Yeah, do you still hear me?
Yeah.
What about now?
All right. What's your thoughts? I say that the whole Florida swing is preseason baseball and nobody gives a damn. What's your thoughts?
What do you mean? Can you hear me?
Come back.
You can't hear me. Hey!
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Preseason baseball?
Yeah.
No.
I said the World of Outlaws tour in Florida is a waste of time. It's preseason baseball. Nobody cares.
But Dirt Vision cares. Dirt Vision cares.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Pony down here and work for us because you got to be here because these are our sanctioned events and you ain't going to get your little toll money and you're not going to be part of the system.
You think that's
They got them hoodwinked, man.
Yeah, but they signed up for it. They signed up for it. They did it to themselves. They accepted the terms.
Well, and here's the deal. Let's say I'm a welder and I work for a company and the company says we're going to give you benefits. And I say, well, this other welding place is going to pay me double on the weekends. And they say, well, you can't work for them. You work for us. I got a choice to make, right?
Right.
So they signed on for the benefits.
Right.
And that's fine. That's completely their fault. But don't be bitching. If I'm a welder getting benefits working Monday through Thursday, I can't be bitching that I can't go freelance on Friday, Saturday, Sunday for double the money.
Right.
I made my choice.
That's right.
So if they want the toll money, the bonus money, the monthly bonus, the end of year points bonus, they got their T-shirt wagons. They can keep them on site. Whereas if you're not full-time, you got to park across the road or not even be present. That's the choice they made. Right?
Right. Right.
So, and guess what? If I was in their shoes, I would take, because here's the deal. It's a good analogy because if I'm sitting there working at the factory that's giving me benefits and some guy comes along and says, hey, I used to work there, but I got a better opportunity for you. But it hasn't happened yet. Okay. But we got a few days that we could give you, but it's not going to be full-time yet. Well, how in the hell am I going to go and quit my full-time gig for this part-time at best opportunity that isn't even there yet? So until High Limits actually makes it to a point where they're a viable option, it's just Kyle Larson trying to infect the mindset of the drivers with cancerous thoughts because his goal is to destroy everything.
What do you mean destroy everything?
Well, because he's using his platform to infect minds. He goes and says, I'm not doing the Chili Bowl because it's not enough money. Really? Nobody thought that until you said it. They may have thought it, but they still did the event. But now because Kyle, the Lord and Savior, said so, now the car count dropped off over 50.
Well, but everyone's always thought that about the Chili Bowl. He's just the first one to actually make a stance. A lot of people have complained about the Chili Boats payout.
Yeah, but I also think that all the California guys didn't come over, and, well, which ones were they? Well, they were all his buddies.
Right.
When they were all there, for the past multiple years. So he's got a lot of influence, and is that his platform to infect the minds of people? Now, don't get me wrong. If the mindset is hold out promoters for more money, I like that idea. I mean, you saw posters, and so have I, from 1985, 1992. The same feature payouts are the same as now. Well, the tickets are going up. So how is the feature payout still $5 to $10 grand? $5,000 on an All-Star and $10,000 on an Outlaw event. I mean, we've seen posters in garages that said that from 30 years ago. Well, the tickets are 30, 40, 50 on up. Well, the promoters know if they don't bitch, we'll just keep doing it. So if the mindset is, hey, create a holdout where we're not even going to leave the garage and pull over there unless you pay better, well, that's a good idea.
I mean, this is all true, but I think you could see it how you see it. I see it as Larson and Sweet said that's not good enough, and I think a lot, just like the Chili Boat thing, I think a lot of people have been saying it, and they were the first ones, just like the Chili Boat, to actually stand up and put action to the words and try to provide another way of doing it or make some changes of some kind. And these drivers, for whatever damn reason they got, chose to say no. They chose to say no.
Right. But I'm just saying, is his platform meant to just destroy, cause dissension and breakup, if you will?
But why? I mean, then what's the right? So that would be like, Brian Carter's secretary's reasoning. I mean, what other option is there to do? Demand they pay higher or not sign? What are they supposed to go out to World Racing Group in North Carolina and picket sign until they raise the prices like the union?
Well, my question is, how many team owners and drivers actually sat down with Carter in a roundtable discussion and said, let's talk?
They did at Knoxville last year, from my understanding. And at Charlotte.
Did they really?
That's what from my understanding. There was some debates for sure. But they just believe that the brand is more important. From my understanding, they believe the brand is more important than any driver. And what the brand wants to do is right.
Well, but all I'm saying is, did he meet individually with these guys and say, what's your pros and cons? And then at the end of it, just said, okay, here's our top 3 pros and top 3 cons, and I'm going to try and do something about it.
There's no way for us to technically know or answer that. Just like I have to say,
so
from my understanding.
Your voice is heard on an individual survey, if you will, that, let's meet and I'm going to act like I care about you, Mr. Owner, Mr. Driver. It's a lot more powerful when you got every owner and every driver in there saying, no bullshit, this is what we need.
From my understanding, that kind of happened, and they just said, well, we're calling you out, and this is what we're giving you, 4 races. Our 10,000 minimum is what it is. And if you sign as a driver, you get these bonuses from the streaming company style deal. You get these contingency monies. You get this and that and the other to be our little porch guy.
Yeah, well, then they got nothing to complain about, and they never should complain ever again.
That's what I'm saying. I'm done. Me, Kyle, and Brad. Kyle and Brad more than anybody, and Kahne, the ones who actually did the physical money alterations of providing an option. And then me sitting here for 7 months straight advocating for that option. These guys, they saw all these options just like we all did, and they signed the line, and they're on it. And I don't care. I don't care if an Outlaw official walks up into the cockpit of Logan Schuchart and starts choking him for no reason. I'm not going to say that's wrong because you signed up for them to be allowing you for that to happen.
Right.
You said it was okay.
Well, and the only way that sprint car racing is gonna, and people may disagree on this, but the only way that they're gonna get back into, we'll call it mainstream, is if they did a route like they did in the 90s when they got on TNN. Because if you look at it, that created a diehard following. And next thing you know, you got Knoxville putting in more stands. You had Eldora building bigger. Tony had interest in buying the thing. Next thing you know, NASCAR's wanting to race at Eldora. That actually caused a resurgence in interest in dirt. And now look at it. If I'm in 1990, if I'm 30 years old, that means that now I'm in my 60s. If I was 40, I'm 70. If I was 50, I'm 80. So that means in the next 10 years, those guys are going to be dying.
Right. And the only way, their best idea to get more new fans is highlights on YouTube. That's the only promotion of the sport right now. You understand that, right? I mean, the streaming you're not going to convince some new person to spend $400 or even $150 on Flow for something they never heard of.
No. And I'll tell you something, too. When you create something that people are passionate about, money is not an issue. I mean, there are people that are charging up credit cards to go to the NFL games and to go on trips to Mexico and you name it.
Yeah, there's a lot of money out there. And that's why I say, the sport being in the dark is what's holding it back, because there's so many small business owners around some of these cities that have just never heard of the sport or like it or anything that would easily cut checks for $200,000. There's multi-million-dollar, there's roofing companies average a $5 million profit margin every year. I mean, that's just one industry. That's just one industry. But the roofers just don't know it. What is a sprint car? Never heard of it before.
Well, and who are the sponsors of dirt racing? If we really look at it, it's all businesses, all companies that you don't even know what the hell they are.
Right.
Like I didn't know what the hell Dryden was.
Right, and now they're not even. Dryden doesn't even exist really anymore. Now it's like branched out, been bought, and it's that Duramax or something like that. It like went under.
Right. So the your minions don't understand us. I guess we're talking above their level again. But yeah,
it's YouTube.
Sorry guys, we're not just talking about the guy parking on finish line.
We're talking about how you don't get no return on investment when you give a sprint car racing team $1, basically, because it's in the dark.
Here's the thing: I have there is no value in any mainstream company. I don't care if it's Coke, Arctic Cat, Ford, anything, to put their name on a sprint car or even a late model, because there's no return on investment. You're better off putting your name on a billboard on a highway, or hell, if you want to go racing, then put it on a damn modified at Boone if you're the local bar and grill, because you'll make more money off of that investment than you will than if you're a damn multi-million-dollar company. So Who the hell is putting their money on these vehicles? It's a money laundering. That's all it is. It's money laundering.
You think they're money laundering?
Well, sure. Why in the hell is every trucking company on late models? You think that they make a damn dime off? You think I'm going to one day say, oh, I should have Hooker Trucking pull my shit? Of course not. It's money laundering.
And what is the point for the money laundering?
Because it's you money launder through what you're into.
We're in a bad audience here, Spike. We're in a bad audience. You got to explain what money laundering is.
Okay, so let's say I'm a big country music fan, and I own a trucking company, and I want to go to all these country concerts and country festivals, and I'm going to be going there and drinking beer. The best thing I can do is, as a company, put my name on the country concert event as a sponsor, because I can write off now all my expense as far as going there. So next level would be is if I sponsor a race car, if I'm into racing, well, even better, because all the expenses that I'm spending on the race car, I can write off as advertising dollars for my business. Our haulers had to drive the vehicle there, so that's more expense for our trucking company. The vehicle, every time we run it, we don't make a dime.
If you buy them a motor, you can use that, if you buy them a shock package.
Yeah, so what it is, it's all umbrella style, right? So if I got, Spike's Trucking Company, and then I got the advertising division, and I've got the race car division, and then I've got the actual trucking division. Well, the trucking division's hauling the race car. The advertising company's getting paid by the race team. That's gotten paid by the trucking company. I mean, it's all just circular expenses, and you're getting tons of write-offs from it.
But it's legal.
It's legal because it's all you're putting on a different hat every time you sign a piece of paper.
But you're saying this is why we can't get newer sponsors, because you're only doing it because you like it, and it's egotistical in a way, because you could say, I'm on that car, I'm winning this, I won that, and there's no reason for an actual sponsor to want to sponsor a car to reach people, because it's technically not reaching any expendable income people. Is that a problem with the fan base of dirt track racing being in a certain tax bracket as well, though?
No, it's not, because there's people at every dirt track of all income streams.
Okay.
And yeah, our guys that we drew in from TNN from the 90s that are 60 to 80, yes, they're on a fixed income. But there still is, there's a majority of people at a track that are basically in their 40s and 50s. They're the working class, right?
Right.
So if you look at the sponsorships that came out of the 90s into the early 2000s, and you've seen it, I mean, you had, Arctic Cat, and then you had a lot of big name sponsors that were on sprint cars. And that was just kind of the
Channel Lock, Quaker State,
Yeah. And that was just kind of the trickle off from that 1990s explosion that they got from TNN.
Right. But then once it went to the Speed Channel, it stopped reaching new people, because the only people who went to the Speed Channel were race people, whereas with TNN and ESPN and all this other stuff, you may reach basketball or football guy or this guy or that guy. So you lost the branching or the reaching new people with the Speed Channel, and now fast forward to today, you ain't reaching anyone but the people who will pay to watch it. There's no
right.
That's the biggest negative to streaming, is that if you ain't it ain't reaching no new people. It put it behind a paywall. That's why I say the only advertisement to new people that we have is YouTube and Facebook clips. That's it.
Right.
So we can't reach no new people because the sport's not being advertised nationally, except on social media and the internet.
Well, and people can say, and this is a good point here, people can say, well, that's just because, economy or racing or whatever. Bullshit. Because there are people that I know that through my business that they would say, what are you doing on, say a few years ago, what are you doing on the weekend? Going to the dirt track. Well, what's that? Was that
dirt
like
bikes?
Dirt bikes? Is that the buggies? Is that mud bogging? They don't know what the hell it was.
We are the most unknown form of motorsport in America.
Right. But now imagine this. I said, hey, Dad, the guy's a dad. You should bring your boys. It's only about 30 minutes down the road. You might get into it. I'll think about it. Guess what? 3 years later, him and his wife, not a race fan at all, never went to a race in their life, didn't give a damn about racing. They like hockey and football. They started watching F1 on the F1 reality show. And guess what? Him and his wife flew to Austin, Texas, VIP this, VIP that, hotel, whatever. You know how much money they spent? $10,000.
Wow.
For F1 race at Austin.
And that's some of the worst racing in the world. It's Formula One.
Yeah. Another guy I know, his son got way into it, and when his son graduated high school, they flew over to whatever European country, spending him and the boy and his wife, more, along the lines of same thing, $10,000.
Wow.
To watch
and most dirt teams would enjoy that as a sponsor. They would say that'll get you the whole side wing or something.
Well, right. So when someone says, well, the racing fan doesn't have money and blah, blah, good. That's the perfect people you don't want to market to, because obviously the non-racing fan has a shit ton of money and they suddenly become fans and they're dropping $10,000 to go to one race.
But we don't reach those people. The best marketing idea that sprint car racing has had is to send a sprint car racer to NASCAR and hope he talks about it on Sunday.
Right.
The Kyle Larsons. Because back in the 2000s, Tony Stewart went around and filled all these dirt track races up, and people think that's the way to market the sport. Because Tony Stewart made him boom. Because he would go there when NASCAR was popular. NASCAR's not popular anymore. Kyle Larson is potentially just as much of a nobody as a sprint car racer. These NASCAR racers ain't famous. They're not.
Unless you got the car. So let's just say whatever business in a city, right? Let's just say Walmart. If you got one of the NASCAR guys sitting at a table when you walk into Walmart and he's sitting there with pictures, is anyone going to know who he is?
I don't think so. The
only way you know is if he's...
Go ahead.
The car's out front. Now that's the difference. Oh, they got the race car out front. Oh, wow, look at this NASCAR. Yeah, the guy when you walk in sitting at the table, that's the driver. Oh, wow. I better get his autograph. He might be a big deal.
Right. Well, and that's why I recognize the reality TV or the entertainment aspect. NASCAR only got big because of Days of Thunder. That's what really blew them up. They can blame Jeff Gordon all they want, but Days of Thunder is what tuned people into NASCAR. Drag racing only got big because of Street Outlaws. And you can go and see, Street Outlaws will go and schedule events at drag racing facilities and bring bigger crowds than NHRA. They will bring bigger crowds than the actual professional ranks just to see the 2 or 3 guys that they saw on TV, just like that Drive to Survive has done. That's why I tried to do the Inside the Dirt episodes, and I got 100 documentary episodes trying to do the same thing, but it's not pushed enough. They think going to Jonathan Davenport's ranch, I guess, and talking to his family is going to make that a big deal, but they put that on Flow Racing behind a paywall. They didn't put it on Netflix. I talked to the guys with Sheldon Hodenschild, Jesse Douglas, and they're going to try to put that whole Sheldon Hodenschild thing on the Pluto app, so maybe that'll help, and that'll be coming out later this year. But there's just zero promotion of the sport. It's so in the dark, and I think people get so big-headed in this little bitty world that they forget that fact. They forget how small the sport actually is. And then they see the initial dollars. The streaming companies, they see the initial money that they're making, and they don't want that to go away. You know, they don't want that to go away, and they make that money based on exclusivity of the sport. So it's a big fucking, like you said, a big circle that is just doing a lot of detriment.
Well, and they're missing it, man, because this is the time where you got to pay the money, whether it's to get on the Netflix or something, and that's fine. Oh, we're going to get on Pluto app. That don't mean shit. I mean, you might as well be on at 2 a.m. on cable TV.
I know. I told him that, but there's not too many
that's like
options.
the time that OBJ wore the Donnie Schatz shirt in the gym and everyone lost their damn minds. I said, what in the hell is wrong with anybody that they think that this is going to mean a thing? It doesn't mean...
Or Post Malone with the big block. Remember Post Malone with the big block shirt? But
yeah, it don't mean shit.
But that's the biggest opportunity to reach people that we got. Because of the inability of the ones on top. Why are we not taking a sprint car, like when they go to these big events in PA or anywhere, why are we not taking a sprint car to a major city event or something? Take it to an NBA game and set up a booth and try to promote to new people. You know, at least reach new people.
Here's why. So some guy comes out from the game, whatever sport it is, NFL, NBA, NHL, and goes, holy balls, this thing looks badass.
Right.
Oh, thanks, man. Here, watch our iPad. Here's a highlight reel of the craziness that we do. Holy shit. When can I watch? Well, you got to pay $300 a year or
right.
else $40 a month, and then you can sign up, and the guys can be like, but what if I just want to watch it to see if I like it? Well, we're not on TV. We're not on we're not on cable. We don't have any free opportunity for you to view this. Well, where can I watch it race? Well, if you drive 3 hours out into the middle of nowhere, you'll find a field with no phone reception, and that's where we race in about 2 months from now.
Right.
Well, can I figure out like some of the drivers or the sport or anything before 2 months from now? That'll give me some time to become familiar with it. Well, yes, you can, sir. For just $299, you can sign up.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best we can do. That's the best we can do.
Or maybe you can find some old highlights on YouTube from the 1989 Knoxville Nationals.
Right.
So then you'll come rolling in and go, holy shit, where's Lasowski and this Steve Kinzer guy? I got to meet them. They're retired. What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, they do put out highlights very quickly on YouTube and Facebook, so you can't say that. You can't say that all they can do is see Knoxville highlights.
That's the worst thing they can do. Because think about it, the worst thing that NASCAR did is on their YouTube, they were like, NASCAR, the full race, you can watch it in like 10 or 20 minutes. They did this highlight thing. It's like this big thing they do now.
Right.
Well, I've never watched a NASCAR race since. I watch it in 10 or 20 minutes on YouTube. It's great.
Right, and then you don't even have to go to it. Well, then what would you say is the solution?
Well, they got to get free entry into becoming a fan. Basically saying that they got to expose the people somehow. Whether that's there's Sinclair Broadcasting Group, for example. They're a group out there that owns about, God, I don't know, probably 1,000 different networks in the U.S., meaning CW networks, WBs, all that stuff. They're going to have to go and pay for TV time, just like an infomercial. Get it on over-the-air free TV.
Yeah, but they don't see value in that. They don't see the value. That don't make them money.
Yeah, but it could, because you can sell local sponsorship. Because now the local dirt track, like in my area, if World of Outlaws had a show on let's just say Wednesday nights at 9 p.m., every race fan in the area would tune in, And then every dirt track in the area would put their commercial on and say, this Saturday you got to come out because we're having the modified madness and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so we just saw a comment, or I just saw one that said, go to some local schools and get kids in for free. This notion of getting kids involved, I just see that there's way more people out there in that 30-year-old age bracket that we need to be concerned with getting them hooked to the sport before kids. You know, our biggest competition is the nightclubs and the bars. That's our biggest competition. We race on Saturday and Friday night. NASCAR races on a Sunday afternoon. And that's why they got the luck that they have. We're against concerts. We're against nightclubs and bars. We're against all this stuff that people find cool. We need to make this sport cool again. It's not cool anymore. People used to go to the dirt tracks because it was a form of entertainment. We don't need to sell. It's a place where you can get your kids in cheap and you don't have to watch them. You know, that's just a bad angle. Like, yeah, we need to get kids into the sport. I got into the sport because my parents went. Not the other way around.
Well, sure. That's how I got into it, because my cousin and then his dad and everyone raced, so our whole family went. Everyone.
Right. We gotta change that. We gotta change it from trying to get the kids in to bring the parents to getting the parents or the adults in to bring the kids.
But here's the difference. It's no different in this sense. My folks would take me to the local track, Plymouth, which All-Stars race there in Wisconsin. And you could get in. They had kids rates, right? It was probably like, $9 for an adult, but it was $5 for a kid. And if you're under 5, you're free, right?
Right.
Well, but let's just say hypothetically, let's just say my dad and his buddies were into the Outlaws, right? Well, that's a different pay grade, right? That's going to be probably, at the time, probably $20 a ticket. Well, you're not going to take your snot-nosed kids to the Outlaws and pay $20 so they can whine and fall asleep and piss and moan the whole time.
Right.
But once you get to a certain age, maybe I'm 10 or 12 and dad says, hey, are you going to behave? Are you into this now? Do you know the drivers? Yep, I do. Okay, well, then I'll take you. You graduate to it. It's just like you wouldn't take your kid to an NFL game because they're too little. But you'll take them to the local high school game because it's cheap or free.
Right.
So this whole let kids in free can apply for dirt tracks that are just the weekly series that, is just your local guys. But as far as Outlaws, which we'll say is the NFL, what are they doing? Or do they not care? Does the Outlaws sell out every track they go to? Maybe they don't care.
Well, I could say that they don't. Based on some of the late model races I've been to at the same track, like Cedar Lake, the late model show is 4 times as packed as the sprint cars.
Sure. So then obviously there is a need, so then how could they get the people of Western Wisconsin and Cedar Lake to show up? Well, get on the over-the-air television. Start buying those time spots.
I just think the problem is they're way more concerned with making money than promoting the sport. And they're making money on the fans. They're not making money on new fans. They're making money on the existing fans.
Right.
So, I mean, there's plenty of things they could do to promote the sport. They need to be at every time they go to a racetrack, they need to go to each major city starting Monday and parade. They do that parade with the 2-seater car, but the damn 2-seater cars never hit the track, and it don't look like the damn race cars that you're going to see this Saturday. Looks like a freaking monstrosity. That's not a promotional vehicle. You need to be able to have some kind of demonstration where you can bust the car off and start it and have it running. Go to Thursday night. Most of these bars across the country, they have Thursday ladies night. Go to Thursday ladies night. Bring some drivers. Reach the regular people, not little bitty kids.
Well, and that's why they had a big boner for Kyle Larson, because they thought, well, this is our free opportunity to get the NASCAR crowd to come over.
Right. Well, but NASCAR is so small. That's why I just hate it. It's like they've literally depended on NASCAR drivers talking about them on Sunday to promote the sport, and that's their best marketing idea possible. It's just ridiculous.
All right. They've relied on the guys now that are 60 to 80, which probably they all had good careers. You know, they worked in union factories, have good pensions, maybe they own businesses, whatever, that are sitting on some good money. But these are also the same guys that are going, I'm not going to blow a lot of money on this either.
Right.
Because it's the oversaturation of the market now. Once again, oversaturation, which is what the streaming does. If I sit there and say, okay, I'm going to go to Knoxville, I'm going to go to the High Bank Nationals, I'm going to go to the Million. That's my 3 sprint car races a year. And then I'm going to hit up, whatever, World 100, the Dream, and one other one. Well, the oversaturation of it has made me just pick and choose.
Right. Right. The diehards.
And it's not that I'm
and then the rest
going,
just watch it on streaming. You just watch it on the stream. The rest you can't make. It's cheaper, easier, faster.
Right, because back in the day, I had to wait till this newsletter came in the mail. I used to get a newsletter, and it came out weekly or bi-weekly, and I had to sit there and wait till the thing came in, maybe the following Friday, and then see who won. And I was a kid at the time, but I mean, obviously then if it was an adult man in the 90s, he probably had to call his buddy that maybe went to the race and, hey, who won? Well, this guy won.
Right.
We had to live through the newsletter or the telephone.
Right. Now, if you don't have a race highlight, if you don't watch it, even if it's not live, if you don't have a race highlight and results posted by the next morning, you're a piece of crap track promoter or something,
Well, and guess what? You could hit me up in 5 years from now, and you'd say, Spike, I haven't seen you at any tracks, man. And I'd go, yeah, I know, I haven't been to any of them. My God, have you been watching racing? I've watched every race, man. I've watched every single race for the past 5 years. I just haven't stepped foot to any of the tracks.
Right. You don't have to anymore.
So how are they making money off of me then? Right? Like where's the sponsorship? See, NFL can make money if I'm sitting at home. Why? Because they sell commercials. There's a commercial on NFL. It says, buy this beer, buy this food. Okay, I'm going to buy that beer or food, right? Like it's going to sell me at some way.
Right.
Well, where is it getting money out of me if I'm sitting on my ass watching Flow or Dirt Vision? Well, it's just the $200-300 a year I'm spending on each one,
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a harsh situation. Harsh situation that no one seems to care.
But if you do the math on it, so if I'm spending $300 on Dirt Vision and then what's the other one? $200?
150. Right? Flow's 150.
Okay, so $450, and then let's say I do the little XR every once in a while. We'll just call it $500. If I add up all that I'm spending on tickets at Knoxville, maybe the High Bank, some of the Eldoras, whatever, that probably totals up maybe we'll say $1,000, right? So the fact of the matter is my ass not being in the seat is costing the sprint car promoter, the track, $1,000 total. All the tracks combined $1,000. But Dirt Vision's getting $300.
Mm-hmm.
See who's profiting from that? Dirt Vision's making money on my ass being home.
Right. And no one else is.
Yeah.
Except potentially the tracks, if they're not a rent a track. And then potentially the drivers.
Yeah, but I'm just talking like the big ones. I'm talking like if I'm just I'm only going to the big money race. I'm only hitting Knoxville, Eldora, whatever.
Right. Right.
So in reality, Dirt Vision don't care if tens of thousands of fans don't ever go to the track again, but just sit home and watch it.
Right. And do we blame COVID for that or greed?
I think that you don't have to blame anything, because if I'm World Racing Group, I say this is awesome because we're making 300 a year on whatever how many people are signing up, and if the average is 20% of them don't even go to a track ever, that's 20% less people we have to deal with that we're still making money on. It's selling air.
How many
That's all
people
they're
do you
selling.
think have a Dirt Vision subscription? And I think it's $349. So it's
Yeah, they do
$350.
like a deal if you buy bulk. It's cheaper at certain times of year, but yeah, it's like $300 about.
And then how many fans do you
bought-
think? 50,000 maybe have Dirt Vision? Maybe. You know, a very interesting video that showed me how many people are watching dirt racing was the one year, I don't know if you remember it, they streamed the Chili Bowl for free on Facebook and YouTube. And the Facebook Live count for the Chili Bowl free was like 26,000, and that's it. That's it. It was like 26, hovering 21, 23. That's it. There's not a lot of people, man. People think this when I made the comment the other day that dirt racing is a sport in the dark, they laughed. It is in the dark, extremely in the dark.
Look up how many people subscribe to World of Outlaws YouTube.
Right, that's probably not a lot either, huh? I know they only got like 300,000 likes.
There's probably
Facebook.
I don't know how many subscribers they have on their YouTube channel.
86,000.
Right. So let's just say for ease of numbers, 50% of everybody at the Knoxville Nationals and 50% of everybody at Eldora events, you know, because you got to count all of them, because we'll just say that there's enough people that only go to one. So you got 20,000 times 5 events, right, at Eldora?
Right.
So that's 100,000. So that's 50 grand. And then Knoxville, 30,000. So yeah, I mean, if you just based on that numbers, are there 100,000 Dirt Vision subscribers?
And if that is 100,000 and it's $350 a pop, that's $35 million.
Right. Well, and even if it's 10% of that, that's 3.5 million.
Right. Right.
And I get it. You gotta, you know, there's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment and satellites, but that's also a one-time purchase because they only do, you know, basically 1 or 2 shows at a time. And then your announcers, I mean, they're not paying them guys 6 figs. They're paying them, you know, probably under 50 grand. So,
right.
I mean,
Gibson probably makes a little more than 50 grand, you think, right?
Well, right. But I'm just saying kind of a lot of the other guys, I think it's just kind of it's fun. You know, they're thankful to just make money to go on the road.
Right. That's very true.
You know what I mean?
But all right, I guess we could wrap this one up. What else is there to even talk about?
Yeah, so, but you were right this weekend. Rico won, but you got to be right once in a while.
Yeah, well, every time I shit talk a prediction, it comes true. Just like gravel at Knoxville.
I will say this, though, and I won't talk long, but anytime they go to Pennsylvania, it always impresses me how all those PA drivers are badass, and they all get out there and can hold their own. You can't say that anywhere else. I mean, you go to Iowa, and they run, you know, against the Knoxville regulars, and some of those guys are struggling. And my God, you go to some other areas, and the local guys are basically doing backflips on turn 1 immediately, you know. So it's
right,
like,
they're in the B main battling to get in the show, the heavy hitter, you know.
Yeah, so it's just very impressive that all those guys in PA, every single one of them could win the Outlaw feature. It seems like they are that heavy hitters out there.
But that's also bad. That's the only area that's capable.
Well, I don't think it's bad because every one of their tracks is so different that it's a very mixed bag of experience. And I also think that they can really glean from a lot of the veterans and it's a way different area out there. I think that they really know how to grow those talents out there. And when the guy really is ready to jump, I mean, a perfect example is a Jacob Allen who, what did he race? The highest level he raced was like, a 305 or whatever they call it out there, a 358 or something.
Right.
And they brought him on the road because they got extra tow money. Once again, the incentive, right? The tow money to have a 2-car team so that it could fund the ability for them to go out on the road. And it's like he had that born knowledge and ability, and then the skill set that he had from PA that he, next thing you know, is winning features left and right. Could you do that? Could you grab a guy out of Iowa, Missouri, anywhere else that just came out of a 305 or a 360 and could do that? I think not.
There's a few, but there's not a lot. I mean, the problem with the World of Outlaws, too, is that the best drivers or their driver roster is kind of a little weak, if you think about it. I mean, it's a little weak. It's not like it's the superstars of sprint car racing that are all in there. I mean, you got Gravel and Macedo and Sweet. You got 5 or 6 guys who are really good, but are those potentially the best drivers, or are they just the ones that are funded enough to be able to do it?
Well, are they the best, or are you saying, or is it just because they got a lot of money put into them?
There's a lot of them. I mean, yeah. I mean, outside of those 5, 6 guys, the other guys are just the ones that can afford to be on the road all year.
But with that, do they have the most money to put into their equipment too, right?
Well, I don't know. How good is Bill Rose's equipment?
Well, no, not him. I'm saying your top 10 in Outlaws or something like that.
Possibly not. It could just be viewed as a really good road job. Instead of being a trucker, they got a sprint car.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm saying too, if you took, so you got your top 5 in Outlaws, your Gravel, your Sweet, your Schaar, et cetera, right?
Right.
If you took a guy that you are like, man, he's damn good, it just doesn't, sometimes it's just not clicking, right? The equipment, whatever it may be. Could you put one of those guys in one of those top 5 guys' cars, and could they just win left and right like they do?
Well, no, I think that's why you don't have too many different winners on the Outlaw Tour until they go to PA or one of these areas where someone else can pick up a win. I mean, there's only, so it's not just if you go to just a regular Outlaw race where it's not a sprint car heavy area. I mean, like when they go to Talladega short track down there, they're going to be racing against one another, those 5, 6 guys, and that's it.
Right. Why are they going there, by the way?
I think they see that as keeping the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars series as a national sport. Because the smart money would be to never travel outside of the Midwest to PA and that swing there above Tennessee. You would never even dip down to Tennessee. You would stay in Iowa, Wisconsin. You'd only go to maybe Houston. You'd only go to maybe Kansas or Missouri, St. Louis, and then PA, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, maybe. That would be it.
Well, their schedule is such a money loser.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They just did preseason all the way, they did preseason all the way down in Florida for a while here. And then why are they not hitting up Talladega and the other track on the way up and then hit up the PA?
Well, probably because that Lowy Insulation gave him a bunch of money to come up there and co-promoted the show.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Because it was the Lowy Insulation like Spring Showdown or something, and that's a PA company.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I think though that you should never go above Florida or maybe mid Georgia till past April.
Yeah, they should have went from Florida to Arizona or something and just stayed in Arizona for a month.
Hit over to Texas, hit that, then hit over to the next one. And
well, that's what they did.
Well,
Traditionally, I believe this weekend they would have been in Austin for the Cotton Bowl races.
Oh, okay.
And they would have went to Vado. But traditionally, those races after Volusia, like last year, I think it was Talladega that was froze out or something like that. And
Right.
then the California races were rained out, and then they had the Vado race after that, so they tried, but it just isn't working. So they figured they'd go up to the money pot. That's always going to be there in PA.
Right. Hey, question. Who's Michael Millard, and do PA guys kind of hate him because he's kind of an outsider that's just rolled in the PA or something? And what is he like?
From my understanding, he's the iRacing guy. He made a lot of name for himself and support through Facebook Live and iRacing. He went to PA. Apparently, a lot of the PA guys don't like him because he just sits on there and talks about how good and great and grand he's going to be, and then he does go out there and not perform well. Wrecks cars, spins out on his own, doesn't hold lines consistently. And so that's why they don't like him, apparently.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But that's what they say. But anyway.
So he's a video gamer.
He's a gamer guy, yes.
Just like you.
Yeah, I don't know how many game races I got, but they ain't recent.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, you should do PA. You should do PA if you.
Right. Well, I think he went to PA because he recognizes what everybody recognizes, and that's where all the fans are. That's where all the money's at for sprint car racing in particular. And that's one of the main reasons I stay out of there because, yeah, even though PA is a great situation, I'd rather have more than one PA situation in the country. All these other areas need to be idolizing what PA's doing, and instead of flocking there, trying to create it in their own regions.
Yep.
But they don't care. That costs money, that costs time, and it seems like as much as everybody likes to say we're the working class, they're acting very lazy.
Well, and I will say this. The Outlaw season, it feels like it never begins until, gosh, maybe
May.
Eldora in May.
Right. But we're going to the lakeside or whatever, so they're trying to, $50,000, they're trying. I-55.
Yeah, I know, but that's a problem too. When you got it where you've got 4 months of racing, that doesn't mean shit.
Right, especially from the last race you ran.
Right. So, all right, that's all.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in. We'll do it when there's a better topic again, too.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're just over the 2-hour mark. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We are going to put this onto the Spotify. Also, links in the description for the PayPal and Venmo, and we're thinking we have removed the sponsorships that tick at the top left of the screen, and that's because we're going to open up a new kind of channel membership deal that isn't necessarily through YouTube. You can do it on YouTube. We may open it up, but we're thinking something like $25 a week or something to put your name or brand or business up there. Trying to make it a little bit more monetarily sound just because I'm not going to get corporate support, and the only support I'm going to get is from the fans. And that's how I have to sort of do, or not even just fans of truth, outspokenness, talking about things that you shouldn't talk about. And since I talk about things that I shouldn't talk about, that's why I know the corporatism supports what I'm talking about, because it's not always in their favor, because usually they got their hands in all those cookie jars. So anyways, things coming up, more things to be talked about in that sense. Head over to longlivethechaz.com. You can get one of these hats. I saw that Dustin was talking about the old only you can prevent forest fires hat. We're gonna have to get this is a sticker and a hat. Maybe I can start making these myself with the Long Live the Chaz sticker. Or we could take the hat off altogether because we did get a recent haircut. Recent haircut. Looks a little, whatever this fade deal. I look like a Chingano of some kind. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. We will probably be doing more lives every so often and kind of siphoning through these lives and taking little clips out of interesting topics. I'm thinking I'm going to be texting Brad Sweet soon because I do have a little bit of an interest on what's going on with the KKR situation. Maybe we can get him on here to do a little live talk and update us on the whole situation as well. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like the video, share the video, comment below as you have been on live video. And as always, be sure to subscribe. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you next time. And be sure to go over on Spotify and follow Long Live the Chaz podcast. This episode will be on there, and there's already the episode from before. This is labeled episode 199 because we do have a playlist here on the channel called Long Live the Chaz, and it has all of our talking videos on there right now. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, until next time.